Hello, guys. Welcome to this new edition of the e-commerce lab by AMC Live, where I bring you another special guest. Her name is Nela Argenciano, and she's an advertising expert when it comes to everything related to e-commerce. And the reason why I wanted to bring Nela to the podcast today, well, podcast slash live, is because we have very interesting topic which is being hitting all around the basically the community of e-commerce sellers in terms of blogs and webinars and being spoken on stage, which is AMC, right? AMC is basically something that's becoming a huge topic, specifically in the Amazon space, because something within the Amazon ecosystem, and it's something that I strongly believe is going to be the future in terms of how to understand the whole funnel from which customers basically discover your brand and make basically a purchase, right? So I'm sure Nell is gonna bring a lot of gold nuggets, as they call them, to the live today. So before we jump into that, Nella, I just want to welcome you to the show. So how you doing?
Thank you, Vincenzo. So great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, pleasure. I think, I mean, I've been following your work for a while now. I always follow your posts on LinkedIn and what you do, and I'm always amazed to some of the insights you share. I think first time we met was an event, I think maybe 2 years ago, done by Olsam. You remember? Yeah.
Yes, it's been a while.
It's been a while. We were talking some interesting things around PPC. So yeah, here we are again. So tell me a little bit about, especially for those connecting live today, who is Nella, and how you jump into the space. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been working in e-commerce for just above 9 years, and as some of you may know, I've been focusing in particular on advertising on Amazon, off Amazon, including Google Ads, social media ads. Obviously, Amazon is my passion; is everyone's passion.
Yes. Yes.
But that doesn't exclude also, content management and full account management of the brands I've worked with. And one thing that I'm very, very proud of, and I always mention, is that I've built the strongest teams ever.
Yeah. That's
So,
good.
so yeah, I've worked across brands, aggregators such as Awesome, agencies such as e-commerce, and yeah, now I'm here, ready to talk about AMC.
Awesome. Awesome. So now AMC, right? Is this thing that everybody talks about, but I feel nobody really understands it properly, right? So I guess because of that, we have to start with the definition of what is MC, because most people actually don't really understand the concept behind that. So let's start with that. Like, what is MC? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll try to make it as simple as possible, as personable as possible. So AMC is Amazon Marketing Cloud, first of all, and it's part of the vast Amazon advertising solutions toolbox.
Hmm.
It's a virtual place where advertisers can see their Amazon and off Amazon data combined.
Hmm.
Not only that, but you can also see the impact that each stream has on each of the other streams' performance. For example, you can see how DSP impacts sponsored ads, which is not something you can see on the platforms themselves.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important. It's a place where you can mix and match data and make the most, make the best advertising decisions.
Good. Yeah, I think it's super important because especially for those that run DSP, like sometimes there's a huge overlap, like because you don't really know if a sale that's happening at a sponsor pro level is because of a touch point that happened outside of Amazon, and that's why they're coming to Amazon, they're making a purchase. And if you don't take those things into consideration, you may assume your sponsored products are behaving better than what they actually are, which
Exactly.
is because they've been driven by the awareness they had with DSP, for example. So I guess being said that, DSP is also something that, let's be honest, not a lot of brands also run, because you need certain budget to bring it to the table and make it effective for your brand. So I guess the question some people may ask themselves, like, this sounds amazing. I really want to understand top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, what the client does from A to Z when it comes to seeing my first point of contact and making a purchase. But at the same time, I need to understand why that is important, because some people might assume, you know what, I rather just focus on sponsor products, which is the one that tends to have the highest intention towards a purchase, and that's it. So what can you answer to that, like why MC is important? Yeah.
Yeah, you said something so right when it comes to DSP and sponsored ads. DSP is always, very unpopular because ROAS is always low. DSP is to
Exactly.
bring awareness, to bring new traffic. So when it comes to budget restrictions, DSP is the first one to go at all times. Well, and it's without AMC, you are looking at two different platforms and you're looking at numbers on two different platforms. There's no way to mix the data. Well, with AMC, actually, you can mix them. You can see how DSP impacts sponsored brands, sponsored displays, sponsored products, but also how sponsored ads impact DSP. So the combination in one place lets you make the best decisions. If you don't have this kind of information, as I said, you might be cutting DSP and reducing the combination that brings the highest conversion rate, for example. So it's very, very important to have everything in one place to make the best decisions.
Yeah, that's key because I guess without that, you're kind of playing blind. Like you may assume, as you said, that DSP is actually not profitable, but realistically, it's because you haven't really seen the full picture of what is being happening with your brand.
Yes, and I
Now,
lived that. I lived that actually when I didn't have access to AMC. This was about 4 years ago. I didn't
yeah,
have access to AMC, and we said, right, we don't have a lot of budget, so let's just eliminate DSP.
exactly.
Sales
Mhm.
dropped in a week, and we couldn't really get back to the level we were on before. So
Yeah,
that's why AMC is super, super important.
yeah. Now, I guess some people might be thinking, okay, I really want to give it a go, but at the same time, given the fact that I have never really interacted with MC in the first place, I'm lacking like what we call the recommendation or the best practices to really get the most out of this tool, right? So, what are some of the things, given that you're already implementing this with some of the brands you've been working with, that are like things that you have to consider in terms of recommendation when getting started? Like, what are some of those things you would say to the people listening and watching right now? Yeah.
So there's a couple of things that come to mind. The first one is usually I'm not a huge fan of certifications. I always feel
Mm.
like experience on the field is much more valuable. But in this case, when it comes to Amazon Marketing Cloud, the certification is very, very good.
Okay.
The course is structured in such a good way that allows you to learn everything that you need to know in a
Mm.
structured manner. And although you need a little bit of experience to go through it, to those that are a little more experienced, it takes about 5 hours to go through the course
Okay.
and take the certification. But even if you don't have experience, there is so much material there
Mm.
that you actually will understand more about it. So I'm a huge fan of the certification, and
Yeah.
the team I've led were almost completely certified on Amazon Marketing Cloud. It's very interesting, and even if you don't know a lot about it after the certification, you will.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very interesting. So, being said that, then I will assume Amazon Marketing Cloud is not something like maybe sponsor pros that you can figure out on your own without certification. You feel it's much more complex that you really need a formation, right, to make the most of.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I recommend a good mix of the certification is the first starting point.
Hmm.
Then there's so many people that post content out there about AMC. Jack Lindbergh is one of my favorite
Hmm.
people on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I always shout
Hmm.
about his content.
Yeah.
He explains
It's
things
very
in
good.
such a good way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are obviously other people as well, like the people from Ad Advance.
Hmm.
They talk about it quite a lot and in quite a good way, intent wise as well. So I recommend a mix of the two to understand more. But then after that, you need experience on the
Yeah, for
platform.
sure. You
So
have to play.
exactly. So the next step after taking the certification is to go through the instructional query library.
Okay.
So Amazon Marketing Cloud gives you a full, complete list of most of the things that you can do through the tool. So it gives you a list of the reports that you can generate and what those reports are for. So that is very important because when you know what you can do, you can actually match it with the brands that you're managing. You can say, okay, I need this report
Mhm.
for this report for this brand, and so on. So it's very important. It will take a long time because it's quite a
Yeah,
lot
of
of
course.
stuff on there, but it's very,
But
very
you will get
interesting.
there. Awesome, awesome. Now, I guess at the same time, given that we're bringing to the conversation now DSP and the complexity of having to have the certification and certain level of experience, some people might start to ask themselves, like maybe this is not the right thing for me based on my size or what I'm doing right now in terms of the expansion of my brand. And I guess that's a fair question. Like some people may really wonder, like, is really MC for me? Like, how do I identify I am at the right stage to really implement MC for my brand? So based on your experience, like, what are some of the maybe KPIs or characteristics that a brand should start matching to really start bringing to the table? Like, yeah, AMC maybe is the right thing for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good question, because I feel like sometimes AMC is just pushed onto brands that are not ready to use
Yeah.
it. So the first thing to look at is, do you have enough data to work with? If you're a brand that spends €200 a month, you
Yeah.
will get blank fields when you run reports. And especially, let's say you spend €200 a month on sponsored products only,
Yeah.
there's barely anything to analyze there. So you need to make sure that you spend enough, you have enough information, and at least you run DSP plus the 3 types of sponsored
Okay.
ads, so that you can
Good.
gather something insightful.
Yeah.
And secondly, it will be a cost, because even if you run DSP and it costs nothing from a platform's point of view, you will have to invest in dashboarding software. You have to invest in SQL
Yeah.
experts. Well, there
Yeah.
is a cost, and you have to make sure that you are ready to pay
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah. So being said that, like, is there a specific? I know this could be tricky because then you might not have the revenue, but still you may have the funding. But on high level, like, is there a specific revenue range that you would say is something that would make sense financially for a brand to undertake? Like, are we talking 7 figures and up, 8 figures and up? Like, what are we talking here where MC can really be something that you can leverage?
I would say when it comes to revenue, I wouldn't really focus on the revenue, because
Yeah.
workforce has different costs in different areas, and you can find
Good.
them everywhere.
Sorry.
But I would focus on spend more and on the traffic
Spam.
generated. So I would say, if you should spend a minimum of 7,000
Mm-hmm.
um, £7,000 a month. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is the
Good.
minimum to give you something significant.
Yeah. Good.
Spending less wouldn't really give you a lot of
Yeah.
opportunities.
Of course.
And based on that, and based on your revenue, you will have to make decisions in terms of dashboarding software. So you can use Google Data Studio, but there's
Mm.
only so much you can do with that. There's only certain
Yeah.
amount of data that you can collect there, and then you'll have to move to the next step. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of analyzing your own P&L and see what makes sense for you.
Good. And now it seems from what you just mentioned before, it seems that with MC, don't, not only you need to understand the strategy in terms of how you combine all this data and make sense of it, but it seems like there is also the development side of things, which is also an obstacle because let's be honest, most people maybe they don't have a development background or they don't really know how to play with a toolkit like this. So I guess my question to you is like from your experience, like what are some of the when we talk about development, does it mean that when you get access to MC, it's like a blank board and you need to develop in order to make sense of it, or you could get away with what Amazon gives you, like you see what I mean? Yeah.
Yes. So Amazon gives you a lot of information.
Yeah.
What is on the instructional queries library can be used with a little bit of time and dedication.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, it can be a little limiting, because what is there is what is available to everyone. But you will come across situations where a brand needs that little extra bit that will need customization of the queries. And if you don't have SQL knowledge, especially the AMC SQL, which is different
Yeah.
from the usual,
Yeah. Yeah.
then you are limiting yourself. So you definitely need someone in the task force, in the team, that is able to expand on those queries that are in the library.
Good. So I guess then, if that's the case, we could assume in terms of team organization for managing MC, on average, like what does the structure looks like it seems like for sure you need a developer, for sure you need a person who knows advertisement. What else you think would be important to have in the team when running MC? Yeah.
So I think one of the things that is could be overlooked is having an account manager or someone that is in charge of defining the business questions. So obviously every brand has different questions. They want to know different things for different reasons. So the person that is in charge of communicating with the brand has to formulate the business questions, put them in a way that makes sense for the rest of the team.
Mm.
Then, like you said, the advertising team, obviously, they will turn business questions into questions that can be answered by the data analytics team. And then, obviously, the data analytics team, those are the people behind everything to
Yeah.
develop dashboards and graphs as needed. Um, and yeah, that's it. That is the
Good.
best structure.
Good. So we're talking at least a team of 3 to 5 people to really make the most out of AMC. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
good. Yeah. So that's important to bring to the table because I feel like most content out there is of course focused on the technicality, dashboards, the technology, but they don't focus on the complexity in terms of just from a team perspective. Like you really need to have a robust team. It's not like one person can run this on its own, right? So it's a complex machine essentially to really make sense out of it. Now,
Mm.
I guess some question people may ask themselves regarding MC as well is realistically the timelines to start seeing some results, right? Because I guess at the beginning, it's all about gathering data, making sense of it, and all of that. But I guess from your experience, like maybe you have identified certain timelines or certain patterns, like maybe after 3 months, after 6 months. Again, it's also going to depend on this on the data sample, of course. But from your experience, like what is usually like the honeymoon period for MC, we can call it, to start seeing results? Yeah.
So from the work that I've been doing in the past, I would say 3 to 4 weeks from running dashboards and implementing advertising actions.
Okay.
So I would say to put together simple dashboards, it might take 1 2 weeks
Okay.
with what is in the library.
Okay.
It takes time, but of course, if you have a more experienced person, it may take
Mm.
less time. But like I said, there's also the option of custom dashboards. Those take longer because you have to find the data point that you need to build that
Mhm.
dashboard, and that can take up to 4 weeks to
Okay.
build. So once that is built, you actually need to obviously have brainstorming sessions where the ads team comes up with the questions for the data analytics team.
Mhm.
And once all of the questions are answered and everything is clear, like what are the data that we used to build this dashboard, then you define advertising actions. And once they are approved by all of the stakeholders, then you implement them. And once
Yeah.
implemented, you need 3 4 weeks to see if
Wow.
it works or if
Yeah.
you spent 2 months on something
Yeah.
that didn't work, which
Yeah.
hopefully never
Of course.
happens to you.
Of course. So you mentioned there's something as well, which is advertisement actions, right? And I guess for you, in order to do that, you need reporting, right? So
Yes.
I'm curious to know from reporting perspective, what are some of the reports you could get out of AMC? Like, what are some of the KPIs? Because in sponsored products, it's all about and sponsor display and sponsor brand. It's all about tags, acres, a conversion rate, and all that. So I guess at the AMC level, like, are we still focusing on those KPIs, or you start to branch out and bring other KPIs into the table to make a decision in the reporting?
Yes, so the two metrics that I have been using a lot are obviously views to know
Hmm.
how often your ad has reached your audience, and purchase rate, so the percentage of people converting after seeing the ad. Those are the two, I would say, most important metrics for the time being.
Okay.
So in terms of, I would like to give an example
Yeah.
of a
Mm-hmm.
way of like how we can how the team can work with the client to answer their questions, so that we can get a better idea of how to use some of the AMC reports. So for example, if we have a client selling in Italy,
Mm-hmm.
their question could be, should we spend in Italy as a whole, or should we focus on one of the three areas, north,
Okay.
center, south? Because they noticed, for example, a very concerning high take-offs in the last couple of months. So they want to know what the problem is, and they thought this might be the reason. Maybe they also saw the same trend on Shopify, and they want to find answers through Amazon. So in this case, the account manager will turn this into a business question. The business question will be which part of the country is generating more sales and more profitably. With this
Okay.
question, he goes to the advertising team. The advertising team turns it into the following. Which area has higher visibility or higher purchase rate? And what are some Italian postcodes that are performing really well in terms of purchase rate or in terms of
Yeah.
ROAS? And they go with this question to the data analytics team. So the data analytics team can run a demographic report that will show them by postcode what is the purchase rate,
Nice.
what is the viewability, and so on, and goes back to the advertising team with this kind of information. So the ads team will gather visibility and purchase rate information, and they see, for example, that the north of it, that all of the three areas have the same level of visibility, but
Mhm.
the north is the one converting most profitably. So the advertising action would be to start targeting the north through a customized DSP audience and reducing spend on the other two areas. So that way, possibly, if everything goes well, metrics will look more rosy for the client, and the client can also implement the same on their Shopify
Okay.
ads. So this is like very, very short example of how you can use AMC as
Funnel.
a tool.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess these questions that when the questions are defined for MC, is this something because some people may have this question, these are these questions mainly driven from the perspective of when there is an issue, when, as you said, there's an issue in country, or it could also be strategic, like and if so, like how you come up with this question? Do you have some advice maybe from that point? Like how do I come up with what should I ask myself in terms of what I can get out of AMC, if you see what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, so to answer your first question, definitely not. We shouldn't only look at AMC when we have issues. There's so much potential there, and it's more actually spending time on seeing how you can double down on success. So the best way to come up with questions is to have this small task force. To have, I would say, to give yourself 2 hours every 2 weeks at least to just sit down, go through an account, and see what are you seeing in an account, what is doing well. Is
Mhm.
the combination of certain ads doing really well? Then what can you do about it? In some cases, like in this case, for example, you can use the path to purchase report. If you see that a combination of ads does really well, but maybe the number of occurrences is not as high as another combination, then in those 2 hours, you will sit down with the team and you can try to imagine what the customer journey is and how to replicate the successful instances.
Good.
So at least 2 hours every 2 weeks. There's so many ideas that will come up, and you just have to shape those ideas into possible reports that you can build and possible actions that you can implement. So just give yourself time without thinking of anything else. Just go through the account and
Just
come up
focus
with
on that.
questions.
Good. Now another thing I'm curious to also learn is how do you find success with MC, right? Because we know the normal sponsor ads is all about tacos and acos and so on. But I guess from MC perspective, maybe your success is more around the awareness of things. You know how much exposure you're getting and all kind of um, metrics. So I guess what I'm trying to get with this is like with MC. I know you mentioned impressions and the purchase rate, but is there some strategy sometimes that you have seen with the brands you've been working that is more than focusing on purchase rate? It's about getting as many eyeballs as possible. It's about creating awareness across the board, making sure we increase our market share in terms of impression and get as much yeah, awareness. Is that something you can use MC for as well? Yeah.
Yes, yes, it can definitely help. If you want to increase brand awareness,
Hmm.
then probably purchase rate is not the best metric to look at. Obviously, yes, we all like to be profitable, but if you're trying to increase brand awareness, then there are other things that you might want to look at, like detailed page views, for example. That is
Hmm.
something that you want to increase. And through AMC, you can make sure that you push the ads combination or the
Hmm.
campaign types that make more sense under that KPI, and then measure success in there's many possible ways of measuring success. For example, measuring the increase in branded searches on the platform,
Mhm.
you will see there if your strategy paid off or if it didn't.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not specifically because of AMC, but it's simply different brands having different objectives, and AMC can help you with that.
Awesome. Now, out of curiosity, like given the fact that you're getting so much data, right, and you start to really understand how your consumer behaves, uh, people might wonder, like, can I use this outside of Amazon, right? Like, can I get some of these insights and actually replicate that on my D2C and so on? Like, is that something that you're seeing? And if so, can you give maybe a high level example of how that would be the case? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. So the first thing that comes to mind is obviously demographic data. So with demographic data, you get information around the gender, the age, the income status, and so on of your ideal customer. And you can use that. You can match that with the data that you collect from Google Analytics as well. And if they are
Mhm.
close in any way, then you might actually be able to build the perfect buyer persona and use it across all of the platforms that you are advertising on. Then there's another thing which is it's not necessarily outside of Amazon, but it doesn't have much to do with advertising. If you run a device performance report that tells you how different devices perform, you can get an idea of where you should be focusing your creative efforts.
Mm.
Let's say you have a lot of traffic to mobile and way less traffic on desktop, but conversion rate on desktop is way higher, then there's something wrong with the PDP or with the brand store
Yeah.
from a mobile perspective. So that tells you straight away you need to do something about that.
Interesting. Interesting.
And I would say there's one very, very important aspect that I would like to talk about, and it's the use of data, offline retail data, to
Hmm.
mix and match with Amazon Ads data. This is so cool and so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you did an Amazon advertising activation, how did it impact offline sales? This is obviously way easier in the US than Europe because GDPR. We're also grateful for that.
Yeah.
But there are always ways around it. So there's a lot of testing involved. If you, let's say, select a line of ASINs and you run advertising, you can test the effect on offline sales and see how that impacted. But that obviously, I want to clarify that that means that you shouldn't be running any other tests in the meantime.
Yeah. Of
That
course.
is
Otherwise, it gets overlapping. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is for Europe in particular, since you don't have a lot of availability of data. When it comes to the US, there's so much data available, like through Squarespace, for example. This is something that you can find in the instructional queries library.
Good.
But it's like I said, it's very, very cool, and it branches out of Amazon online,
Nice.
and it gives you so much power.
Pandora box.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that's actually a very important point because I guess some people may assume with MC that you're limited to only data happening within the Amazon ecosystem. But if I'm not mistaken, you can integrate like data from your website and so on, right? Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Good.
absolutely. Absolutely. You can
Good.
put everything together and make the best decisions, not just on Amazon, but cross-platform.
Good. Now, another question I had, like in terms of regions, right? And let's talk regions and then access because some people may ask, okay, it's interesting. Is it available in my region? That's number one thing. And the second one would be, how do I get access? Because I know you have to go to certain partners to get access to this. So yeah, how does it work in those two scenarios, two questions? Yeah.
So I would say it's available in all of the regions where DSP is available
Okay.
in.
Good.
It's pretty much strictly connected to having DSP
Yeah.
running. And the way to activate it, actually, the most simple way is to go through your the partner network and get in touch with the representative from Amazon that can guide you through the steps to setting that up. So if you have DSP running, you have to ask to create an AMC instance, which will require a sponsored ads entity and a DSP ID. With those two, you will be able to create the AMC instance.
Good, good. And another thing that I feel, because I know this question is gonna come from sellers. Let's say a seller works with an agency and somebody that does AMC for them, and they build dashboard for them and everything. Like those dashboards and everything are not hosted in your seller central account. So when you leave, what does it happen? Like you lose all that data? Does it stay in your account? You see what I mean? Like all the queries and everything built. Is that something that, what is the situation? Because I'm sure some people might have that question as well.
No, when it comes to the queries, they will likely stay in your AMC account. However, they're not going to be so user friendly if
Yeah.
they're not in the form of a graph or a
Yeah.
dashboard.
Because the dashboard is something that I guess is hosted outside of Amazon, right?
Yes, yes, that is correct. So my best suggestion is to get familiar as soon as possible
Yeah.
with the queries that have been run.
So you have flexibility.
Yes, yes, exactly. But that is a very good point. And I'm assuming that in case you break up with an agency, you're moving on to the next one. So if the queries are in there, it should
Okay.
be fairly simple to rebuild the
Okay.
dashboard. However, obviously, getting refamiliarize yourself
Yeah.
with the new
Everything.
dashboard and everything. Yeah, so it's not ideal, obviously.
Awesome. That's awesome. I think we covered like so many good questions and areas of MC. I guess to conclude, is there anything else, maybe in terms of consideration, advice, predictions that you want to bring to the table before we end today's live
Uh,
podcast?
Predictions. Everyone should familiarize themselves with AMC. Suggestions is not this scary beast that it seems. It's
Yeah.
actually, once you get the right team in place, once you work with the right people, it's very, very enjoyable, and it's a journey finding out new things about your account that you didn't know
Yeah. Yeah.
about. And yeah, recommendations: go do your AMC certification.
That's the number one homework.
Yes.
So, Nela, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I value, all your knowledge and everything you bring to the space. In case somebody wants to get in contact with you and get a little bit more geek about MC, how they can find you? Yeah.
LinkedIn is the best place to find me. You can book a slot in my bio through the link in my bio, and I can dedicate as much time as you want to all of the questions that you have. Always
Awesome.
happy to jump
Thank,
on a call.
thank you for that. So, pleasure and looking forward to having the next one. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thanks, Vincenzo.
Bye. See ya. Bye.
Bye.